Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Huffner, and I am the AmeriCorps Seniors Program Manager with UServe Utah.
Hi, I'm Hannah, and I'm the AmeriCorps Seniors Program Specialist with UServe Utah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this video on how to complete your timesheet and mileage log in our IPT electronic timekeeping system. We are really looking forward to going over this information with you so that you'll be more successful in completing your timesheet. So the first step is to go to the website to log in. You are able to get there by going to www.runipt.com. It will take you to this website, but all you need to type in is www.runipt.com. Then the organization ID that you'll use is USERVSR. So it is an abbreviation for our program. You will then enter your username and password. So your username is what you determined. We today are going to be Barbara Streisand, the volunteer in Blanding, Utah. And her username is B Streisand IPT. And then I'll put in her password. Make sure to be careful in entering your password, and then you will log in. If you cannot remember your password or have issues getting into IPT, you can contact your program coordinator directly, and they will reset your password and help you re-enter IPT so that you can complete your timesheet. So let's now log into the system. Here we are at our portal page.
So as you can see your home page, there are some tabs. One is student detail. While it says student, because other programs use this tracking system as well, it is your volunteer detail page. And so if you click on that, it'll show all of your contact information and even your picture if you uploaded it. And if you have an address change or email change, please let us know, because if you change your address, you will need to fill out a new W-9 to send to our finance team so you can continue to receive your stipend check. And we want that to be correct, and make sure it is your mailing address. And then you can go to home and click on My Forms to view your monthly timesheet, as well as your past enrollment forms if you want to review them. But you will see at the top your most recently scheduled timesheet, and you can click View. And you just make sure that it's the correct month by looking at the top. So it'll have your name and then the month. This is, we're pretending it's May 2024. It'll show your county. And that's how you know it's the right month.
The first step is to enter your volunteer hours. And so when you enter your volunteer hours, these are the hours that you spend with clients, traveling in between clients if you see two clients on the same day, as well as time that you spend working on your timesheet. And so we are going to enter hours for serving a client. So on the 1st of May, Barbara visited one client for 4 hours. And so we're going to put in her typical schedule with the first name of the client. And it's possible to use initials or to write client 1. Do whatever is easiest for you to remember. So maybe first name is easiest. If it's quick to do initials, that is fine. We just need to identify who the client was so your coordinator can verify that you are seeing those clients on that day. So that is her first day of service of the month. Then the next day, she saw 2 clients. And so she had actually 6 hours of service that day. And we're going to put Marlene for 3 hours. And then Jan for 3 hours. They live really close to each other, so there is not any travel time significant between those. The next day, she also sees two clients. Jan for 3 hours, travel time for 0.5 hours to get to the next client, and then Susan for 1.5. And then we will see that it was actually 2.5 because we totaled it to 6 hours. And look, one of the things we want to do in our training video is show you that it's possible to make mistakes and that it's important to go back and look at your work. So I put 5.5 hours down, then I put down the hours in the clients column. If you total those up, it does equal 6 hours and not 5.5. And so we are going to adjust the hours to 6 hours instead of 5.5. And we are going to save our work here. Barbara has come in on a Saturday to do her mileage log and her hours right here. And so she actually is going to spend about 15 minutes today doing her mileage log. Instead of putting in 0.15 for 15 minutes, it's 0.25. We have to use, as it notates up here, 0.25 for 15 minutes, 0.5 for 30 minutes, 0.75 for 45 minutes, and then if it's 50 minutes or 55 minutes, then it goes to the next hour. So we do want you to count the time that you spend entering your timesheet and mileage log. And so for her, she's just getting used to using IPT. She wants to come in every week to do it. And so she is spending 15 minutes today to do her timesheet. So we are going to put timesheet entry, and that counts as part of your volunteer hours for the week.
And so you can see in that right column that says clients or requests for admin leave that Laura is entering in, and it has this pencil and paper icon that you can click on to make any notes like that for timesheet entry, your clients, etc. And so that's a great place to make notes for yourself and the coordinator to be able to see that. So let's say Barbara actually went to her in-service training on Monday the 6th. And so in the second column where it says training is where she will put those hours. And she spent about 2 hours at in-service training. And because the staff that are reviewing it might not know what Barbara did, she needs to put what type of service or what type of training that she did. And so she puts that in that comment box, saves and closes it. And let's say Barbara also decided on Thursday to do some at-home training because she missed in-service last month. And so she was approved some articles to be read by her program coordinator and spent an hour on those. And so again, she needs to put in that comment box what she did so that because the coordinator might have 30 volunteers, it's helpful for her to say, okay, I do remember approving those articles on hospice training. And so Barbara notates that and saves and closes it. And that's super helpful for her to remember and the coordinator to remember. And so please, if it's a video or whatever, just notate that. And then of course, save work when you're done with a week.
Great. So we aren't going to fill out the entire timesheet today, but we do want to talk about leave, holiday, and admin leave. And so to make leave work on your timesheet, we want you to be using your leave that you accrue as you need to. And as you have clients that you're already notifying that you're not able to make it because you have a doctor's appointment or you're going out of town, that's how you notify people of leave. But the way that you use leave is by putting it into the column here. And so we will make sure though the amount of leave time that's available for use before we put leave in. You cannot have a negative leave balance. And so that's why it's important for you to make sure that you're not adding 5 hours of leave for the month when you don't have that much leave accrued. To find out how much leave you have, you go to the bottom of the timesheet and you will see your leave time here. So this is Barbara's second month of service, and she did 30 hours last month in service. And so she has 3 hours as her beginning balance. Already she's earned an hour 0.925 of leave. And so her monthly end balance to this point is 4.9 hours. So she'll serve more hours throughout the month, of course, but she is going to use some of her leave early in the month. And so on Tuesday, the 7th, she is going to, she has a doctor's appointment. And so usually she serves 5 hours that day. She doesn't have 5 hours of leave to take. She's going to use 3 hours of leave. And she is just going to, because it's always helpful for us to have information. So we know that, yes, you are wanting to use leave. She's going to put daughter in town. Did not serve. That is why she took leave. So that is, and then when you save work, you can go and see at the bottom, yes, she took 3 hours of leave. She still has about 2 hours left, and then she'll serve more hours as she goes along.
Yes, it's so helpful for us to be able to see the reason in that comment box, because sometimes people will use less leave than they actually have, or they don't know how much leave that they have and mistakenly put a certain number of hours that they would have served. And so it's helpful for us to know those things so that we can say, oh, she would have served Marlene on Tuesday and she did not because her daughter was in town, and she usually sees Marlene for 3 hours. And so it looks good that she's asking for 3 hours of leave time versus 9 hours of leave time, which would not make sense. And so that kind of information is helpful. So next is our holiday hours column. You see that there are no boxes there. That's because volunteers do not input holiday hours, the staff do. And they calculate that by taking your total hours of the month and divide that by the number of weeks or that they could have served. And that is their average hours per week. And so we would give you 2 hours for holiday hours if you served between 8 to 14 hours a week average, because some weeks you're out of town and so you do a lot more the week before, and so that's why we do that average. And serving less than 15 hours a week needs to be approved by your coordinators, because that 15 hours is the minimum requirement for this program. And so again, 8 to 14 hours, you would get 2 holiday hours on a holiday. And then 15 to 20 hours, you would receive 4 holiday hours. 21 to 30 hours a week, average is 6 holiday hours. 31 to 40 hours a week is 8 holiday hours. And so it's not your total hours in a month, it's your average weekly hours that determines how many holiday hours you, just in case if all those numbers were confusing. So unless if you're out of town completely or unable to serve completely in the weeks that have a holiday, please don't skip service just because you expect to be receiving holiday hours, because the people that you're serving do need that help. And it is a lot harder to have to double up on hours on a different week just to meet that 8 to 15 hour minimum in order to receive holiday hours. And so that's what we recommend. And if you do visit your client on a holiday, please put those hours in the volunteer hours box. So let's say it is Memorial Day at the end of the month. That's when Barbara decided to visit her client because they were a veteran and it would be meaningful to them. And so she visited for 2 hours, but she'll still get holiday hours on that day based on her minimum based on her average hours. Hopefully that made sense. And so it doesn't negate you from getting holiday hours if you serve on a holiday.
There are 14 holidays that we recognize, and so I think so. Um, with that, you'll want to, that, for example, the 4th of July is a holiday, Juneteenth is a holiday, so there may be days that are not as significant in personal life as Thanksgiving, Christmas, when you may end up serving a client on one of those potentially less significant holidays. But you can also know that you are receiving that holiday hours if you need a chance to recuperate from all of the amazing service that you're doing. And so know that you can also take the day and have it as a holiday. We want you to have that benefit. That's why we have holiday hours. The next piece that we want to talk about is admin leave. So this is something that we discuss in your volunteer handbook. There are times when, as a volunteer, you can receive administrative leave. These are for mainly unexpected circumstances that cause you not to be able to serve, but you would have served if it would have been possible. Or another reason for administrative leave is bereavement leave. And so you can look at the reasons in your handbook for administrative leave, but we want to discuss one of the main reasons a senior companion may have an opportunity for administrative leave. Now, please note that this is approved by the program. It is not something that you are approving yourself. So that's why in this comment box, you write request for administrative leave, and why it's on the end of You Serve Utah, our responsibility to review, approve, and enter those hours for you. So when a client cancels less than 24 hours in advance, you are able to request administrative leave for that cancellation of the client. So Marlene, as you see, she typically serves her for 4 hours on a Wednesday, but on Tuesday the 7th, she contacted Barbara and let her know, I actually am having family come into town and I no longer need a visit on Wednesday. So what Barbara is going to do will be right in the column, Marlene canceled, would have served 4 hours. This note allows us to then review it, see there was a cancellation, see the number of hours that would have been served by the volunteer, and then we will add those 4 hours to your administrative leave column. We know that if a client cancels over and over again, they are not as, it's not a great placement. And so it's also helpful for us to see on your timesheet if someone is continuing to cancel, so we can evaluate the placement with that client. But please note that on this day, the 8th, there are no hours that are entered, but then they will be entered when we review your timesheet. And then you can go back later and see the final timesheet and see that those 4 hours were added to your timesheet and are added to the total hours that you will receive. And it is the same for holiday hours. Those hours are entered after the fact and after you have served and notated the reason that you need the administrative leave. Let's see. One thing to note is if it's a day that you did go to their house and they did not answer the door, they weren't there, it's helpful if you put that as a note that went to Marlene's home, client did not opened the door, would have served 4 hours, because that will help us know, oh, that's why you still have mileage on that day you went to the household. And we just need to have good information so that we can process your timesheet and understand the service story that you had that month.
Yes, and note that when clients cancel, it needs to be within that 24-hour notice to get administrative leave. If it's like a week before in advance, that doesn't constitute getting administrative leave. And hopefully they would be willing to reschedule if it works with your schedule, so that you can still have that meaningful visit during the week. And so just recognize you don't always get admin leave if a client cancels. It needs to be within that 24-hour period. And so you can see next to this admin leave box or admin leave column, and then the box next to it, that there's a meals section with some check boxes. So you need to be serving at least 2 hours in a day in order to claim a meal. And it needs to be eaten with the client or as like a break between clients. And that's when you can get a meal reimbursement. And so you would just click a checkbox if you did meet those requirements of 2 hours and being with a client or between clients. And so you can see that Barbara actually eats quite often with a lot of her clients. And so she has chosen that every day. And we saw that you also saved work so that you can see that checkbox is saved. And then at the very bottom, when you're finished for that week or for the month, you can scroll down and see your totals, as Laura mentioned. And so you'll see the column titles are right above those totals. And so this is a nice way to check if you put everything you hope to. Because, for example, I had a volunteer who had input her clients' names into the comment box, but had no volunteer hours for a week. And it must have been a saving work issue. And so if she had scrolled down and seen, oh, she's missing like 12 hours or 15 hours, and that total doesn't look like it's enough, then she would go back up and recognize that her, oh, I forgot to put my volunteer hours in for the days that I put my clients' names. And so, or, oh, I forgot to put in my training hours because it says 0, but I know I did 4 hours of trainings. And so that's where you can look at those totals. And like Laura said, the holiday hours and admin leave hours, those will update after the USERV staff have signed it and processed your timesheet. And so you can go back in and check how many hours you were given. And then that was correct, as well as the number of meals that you claimed. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. This next piece, we're going to talk about your mileage log. And so this mileage log is really important for us to get accurate odometer readings, accurate locations, because we send your timesheet and mileage log to Utah State Finance Office, and they review this to make sure that we can process the reimbursement to you and give you your stipend check. And so we want to make sure that we have great information that will be possible for them to process the check. Now, when you do your mileage log, the first step is to write the date. So we are going to put that first day of the month where she saw Marlene. So enter the date. Then we're going to put in an odometer reading. 333. The full odometer reading just makes it helpful. And so the trip that I have written down on a piece of paper so that I have it at the ready when I need to go in and enter this information is right here. So 330,000 miles, and then and it's about a 5 mile, it is a 5 mile trip. The start location, if you're coming from your home, you need to include the address every month of your home in this start location box. And so home, let's see, 132 north, 50 south, Landing, Utah. Okay, that is the home location. Now the first stop and the only stop for this day is going to be Marlene's house. So Marlene was notated, and we're going to put her house location because these locations will allow us to recreate a map if we need to show, yes, it is a 5-mile trip from this address to this address and then returning back home. And so that is actually helpful to add in this return home so that we know that's the full trip is 5 miles. Next, we are going to add the second date. And she saw 2 different clients on that day. They live really close to each other, just about a block away. But so she didn't go anywhere the night before. So she's starting out at the ending odometer reading becomes her starting odometer reading, but she's written that down. And then she has a couple of places has gone this day. So she had written down her mileage and now is going to notate this. She doesn't have to put her home address again. She'll just put home here in the start box, but then we'll know that is where she's coming from. And then she'll put Marlene home. Marlene and Barbara do not go anywhere, but then she goes to, was it Jan or Susan? I think it was Jan. She also saw Jan. So Jan home, and she's going to include the address. Jan lives at 2000 South Main Landing, so very close. And then with Jan, she takes her to a few different locations. They go to the Family Dollar in Blanding, and then they also go back to Jan home and then return to my home. So this is painting a picture of the trip that the volunteer makes. This would allow Hannah and myself, when we're looking at the timesheet, the opportunity to check and to make sure that, yes, a trip to this location and then to this location and then to the Family Dollar, which is an obvious place that we can find on a Google map, and then back to Jan home and then returning to this address is a 15-mile trip. We just need to be able to show that your map, that the map that we create matches the mileage that you have recorded.
Yes, so it's so helpful to put that specific location name if it is easily findable on a map. And if it's somewhere like a food bank that when you Google it, it doesn't show up, please put the address. And if it is easy to find, you don't have to put the address. Finance does want to make sure that, like, oh, she often goes to this volunteer or to this client's home, but why is it 10 miles more today? Well, because they went to these other locations. And so that's why we have to create a map. And if you want to save work, that's when you're going to see that updated total mileage.
Yes, and I want to show an example with saving work. So on the 3rd, she sees clients. She did go a few places herself on the night of the 2nd. Not necessary for us to know all the details of Barbara's life, but so she starts off with her mileage log at 333080, and then she's going to put in her next miles. Okay, then we're going to save work. And then look at what we see. So a little typo here. Instead of putting 3-3, it looks like she put 3-3-3, she put 3-4-0, which is not, that's 7,000 miles that she drove. So we know there's a mistake there. She did not drive 7,000 miles in one day. And Barbara can catch this because she can save her work and see the total mileage here. So she sees, whoa, that is not correct. She goes back in, she realizes, oh, I needed to just do 333,090. And that's how many miles I drove that day, were 10 miles. So just know that this total mileage box can be very helpful for you to make sure that the mileage you have makes sense. And if you are going to the same place every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the trip should always be the same distance unless you have that additional stop that Hannah talked about, that you're taking your client somewhere. And so that's why the mileage for that trip is different than a typical trip to see that client. So just keep that in mind, that your miles should be the same for trips that you take that are the same.
Yes. And you might be really worried about Barbara's car since she has such a high mileage on her odometer, but she's okay. So if you want to check at those dates as well, you want to make sure that your dates match your volunteer hours log dates, because we will check as staff to make sure that there weren't any mileage logged that was not for your volunteer service, or if you had put hours and didn't put mileage and you wanted to claim it, we want to make sure that you can claim that mileage. And so we'll go through and scroll up, and that's where you're able to see, okay, she did serve the first, second, and third. And if you scroll back down to her mileage log, you'll see that she put mileage for the first, second, and third. And so just know that we staff will be looking at that. And so that's such a great thing to do when you're finished recording all your mileage, to just go back through and check that those dates match up, because sometimes you might record your hours on a Friday, but put your mileage on a Saturday. And so we're wondering, oh, did she serve Saturday as well and didn't record those hours? And we need to make sure she gets those hours in. And so it's really helpful to make sure that those will match so we don't have to send that back.
Yes, that is a good point about sending the timesheet back. If we see an issue on your timesheet, we may need to return it to you so that you can make the correction. We want you to learn how to do your timesheet correctly. And so that's why at times it's really important for us to send it back and ask you to make changes. If it is a small issue that we are able to clear your timesheet, make an adjustment ourselves, we still need you to re-sign your timesheet. We on our end are not able to make changes without having it approved and re-signed by you. Especially when it's changing something like hours, it needs to be re-signed by you so that it calculates and we are able to send it in correctly to the finance team. So just a note about that, that we appreciate your help and support when we have to send it back to you and have you make adjustments or at minimum sign it again. And are there any other things that we want to discuss before we show how to sign the timesheet?
Yeah, if you happen to like serve like every single day of the month and you run out of space, you can absolutely click that add row button on the bottom so that you can, yes, so that you can add more mileage if you need it. Maybe you're making lots of stops because your client needs to go to the doctor and the post office every single week. And so that's where that's an option for you to continue to add more miles if needed. I think that that's it besides saying.
Excellent. So the final step will be for you to click to sign completed document, and then you will write your name into the the box. So you click here, and then Barbara is going to write her name directly, and then submit signature. Then you can see that it's time-stamped right here, and then it goes to her station, and then to us as well to approve. So that is the process for you to submit your timesheet. Thank you for your efforts doing your timesheet. We really want to thank you for this. We made this change to IPT so that we could improve our program, and we appreciate you working on your timesheet electronically. It's been helpful for us to submit timesheets more quickly, and to have all of them in one place. So it's, we think, a positive thing, and we appreciate your patience, efforts, and for learning something new. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much, and for taking the time to watch this video for the first time or reviewing it. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye.